Hello everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show. Welcome to Bricktober. Hello everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to Bricktober. We are in the third week of looking at all things spooky and scary, and that includes monsters. So go ahead and leave us a like, because we have a monster to take a look at today. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the lost citizen of Cobra-La, Pythona. Pythona was never in the vintage line, unfortunately. She was a presence in G.I.Joe the movie, but she didn't make it into the vintage line. If you remember back in the day, when Cobra-La came out, Hasbro released them as a blister-carded 3-pack that had Nemesis, the Imperial Guard, and Globulus. Pythona, unfortunately, was left out of that. But now, that mistake has been rectified, and we have her in glorious 6-inch form for the G.I.Joe Classified series. Getting her gives us another citizen of Cobra-La that brings us closer to completing the set. So far we have Nemesis Enforcer, we have Once a Man Cobra Commander, and if you count him as Cobra-La, we have Serpentor, which, if we're talking about the Sunbow continuity, I do kind of consider him one of Cobra-La, because it was set up that they were the ones that were the inspiration behind his creation. The only thing that we need left is the Royal Guard, which we know we're getting as a general release next year in 2026. So I'm betting that Globulus is going to be some kind of exclusive next year towards the end of 2026 as well, whether it is their San Diego Comic-Con exclusive or whether it is their fall convention exclusive like she was. I'm going to be curious to see how they package Globulus, because he's probably going to have his big snake tail, but I'm also curious if he's going to have his big hover pod that comes with him. But I do have a feeling that by the end of next year, our Cobra-La collection will be complete. I have often said I have mixed feelings about Cobra-La because I love their design, I love their aesthetic, I love this bio-organic armor and weaponry that they use. I am 100% convinced that they were the inspiration to the Yuuzhan Vong in Star Wars. I know I'm pronouncing that wrong. I never figured out how to pronounce it correctly. But as a member, as part of the G.I.Joe continuity, I'm really glad they were never included in the Real American Hero comic. Now, they are a major part, a major influence of the Energon universe in the Skybound comics, and I think that's where some of these accessories come from. Specifically, I'm talking about her chakram right here, because I don't remember her using these in the cartoon. Everything else that we see here, all of these accessories, these additional hands, everything else right here was part of G.I. Joe the movie, during pretty much her first 5 minutes when she was infiltrating the Terrordrome. This big red diamond right here is from the cartoons as well, which we'll take a look at once we get this open. But I believe these are new, and I wouldn't be surprised if these were part of the Energon universe. Pythona looks awesome just in the packaging, and I'm really looking forward to getting her out and seeing how she works, checking out her armor, her sculpt, the details, and all of the kibble that she comes with. So taking a look at the packaging, we can see that she has the standard classified packaging. She also has the typical Cobra-La packaging with sort of like this metallic reflective boxing right here. G.I. Joe Classified, Cobra-La Pythona. On the side, we have some really great artwork of her. That is just outstanding. I love the eyes. Once again, makes me wish that we still had non-window packaging for Classified. We have her number down here on the back. That is a ferocious image. That is a great photo of her right there. And then we have some highlights going on. On this side, we have the QR code and those symbols that I never bothered to find out what they mean. And a pullback, a little bit more of the image right here, which looks fantastic. I wish there was a spot where we would have seen a bigger picture of that, like maybe if they could have put it back here somewhere. Up top, 172 and the Cobra logo. On the bottom, we have all of this nonsense. So, without further ado, let's just get this open, because I know I am, and everybody else is eager to get this open and take a look at Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified Series Cobra-La Pythona. Okay, at long last, here she is, Pythona unleashed upon the world, and putting the tape measure to her, we can see that she is 5 7/8 to the top of her head, and roughly 6 1/4 to the top of her top knot. Taking a closer look at Pythona, I took her cloak off so that we can take a look at her, the figure, the sculpt, her body design, things like that, and the articulation. We will take a look at the cloak once we look at accessories, but I wanted to get basically just like a bare bones look at her from the start. And the first thing I have to draw attention to is, other than her face and her hands and the little bit of neck that you see, there is not an inch on this figure that does not have some sort of texturing on it. And we have 3 different types of texturing to speak of. That we have first like this heavy armor right here where we have the dark purple. Then we have these lighter pieces that still have texturing, but it's not nearly as heavy. Like this would be like the cloth or the material part of the chitin armor that she's wearing. Still having texture, still having some sort of density to it, still offering some sort of protection. And then we come to the completely uncovered hands and of course her face sculpt that is just completely smooth, even where these markings are or tattoos or whatever they're supposed to be. That there is so much going on with this figure that Hasbro did a really great job. It's like they knew we had been waiting. It's like they knew that it was a mistake to leave her out of Cobra-La for as long as they have. And so they just really went all in with creating this classified version of Pythona. You can even see like the muscles bunching in her back underneath the armor right here, which is a fantastic look. The long ponytail that she has going on that sort of just has movement to it, a movement all its own, like it's Medusa's locks that are just like slithering and moving constantly. That is a very cool look for her. And then let's just take a look at this face sculpt. Whoops. Let's just take a look at this face sculpt. How smooth it is, how just complete contrast to everything else that's going on. Smooth, featureless, like flawless, nothing like marking her right here. Her eyes are fantastic. Those serpent eyes that are just staring out from underneath those red brows. I really dig this. And then we have her earrings right here that are a little asymmetrical. And I don't know if it's supposed to be that way or if one just curled in the packaging, but I'm pretty sure the other head sculpt has it set up like this. And I do like the idea that like the earrings are asymmetrical on her. Everything is just so good. And this little detail, which I never realized in the movie, she's basically barefoot. Like the chitin armor has like just formed to her foot, and you can see her toes right there. Which I really like this, because I thought I just watched the scene again when she broke into the Terrordrome in prep for this video, and I thought she had like a booted foot or like a heel or something, like what would have been the norm for female characters for the 80s. So I don't know if this is just them, the classified team, just taking the initiative and changing that up, or if this is how she's going to appear in the Energon universe. I know Cobra-La has already appeared in the Energon universe. I don't have any of those issues, so I don't know if Pythona has actually shown up in G.I. Joe yet. But I really dig this with the feet being just out there, the toes being exposed but still covered up with this heavy armor. I think that is very cool. Once again, taking a closer look at like the texturing, the details, the crevices of the armor on her legs. This is really where you can see just like all of the work they put into this for the sculpt. It's just fantastic. Coming up to the breastplate right here, all of this just swooping in, like there's a style to it. There's sort of like an artwork to it, but also there's something just gruesome about it. and it works so well. So let's see how it works for articulation. That the top knot can spin around because it is removable. We'll see that in a minute. Actually, let's pop that off while we look at the articulation. You can take that off. The head looks up, not so much. The head looks down okay. A very common problem with classified. The head doesn't go up and down very well. Does a full 360. We get a little bit of tilt side to side. Arms will do a full 360 spin. We have a butterfly joint that goes back very well. Comes forward, okay, not as well as it could, but it's okay. This is one instance where like I feel the cuts for the articulation, especially the butterfly joint right here, works with the sculpt of the figure because you have all of these cuts and crevices and just texture to the armor already, that these just kind of fit in with the rest of it. So the arms will come up. Whoop, is that all the further they'll come up? I thought they came up higher than that. Nope. The arms will come up to there, under 90. We have a bicep swivel. We have double jointed elbows that will close in on themselves. Wrists pivot. And these wrists, the weapon wielding ones, hinge up and down, which is very good. Let's get your arms up out of the way, Pythona. You can see that we have a torso cut here that is hidden by the breastplate very well. And once again, just like with the butterfly joints right here, whoops, this cut works with the sculpt of the figure, that we can get some torso twist out of it. Not a whole lot, not going to do a full 360. There is some back, and there is some forward, and there is some side to side. This is a very tight joint, so the side to side doesn't really work that well, but then we have a ball joint down here that also gives us more pivot. She can crank back fairly well, but you'll start to see the gapping up front. She can go forward fairly well. And here we have the side-to-side rock at that ball joint at the waist. We have drop-down legs that will come forward that far. Look, you even have like the sculpt on the bottom of her foot right there, which I think is really cool. But they will come that far to just under 90. They go back that far, come out to the side fairly well. I wish they came up a little bit higher. The reason I wish that like she had a little bit more flexibility like in the torso and in the legs right here is that if you remember that scene when she busted into the Terrordrome, she basically ninja'd her way in there. Like I feel like she should have like all of the articulation. Double jointed knees that will close in very well. I almost forgot she does have a thigh cut that is hidden very well by the chitin armor right there. There is no boot cut and there is no ankle twist, but the ankles do rock back very well. The ankles rock forward very well. And then we have our forward facing pin for some rocker. Out of the box, Pythona comes with her weapon wielding hands, which also kind of look like trigger fingers. She doesn't come with a gun, but considering it's a G.I.Joe classified figure, it's cool that you could put like a Cobra weapon in her hand if you wanted to. And who knows, maybe later we will. She also comes with a pair of clenched fists, and the fists, like the weapon wielding hands, hinge up and down instead of in and out. And now we have her weaponized hands, which are really awesome. Her right hand right here is designed to mimic when she was cutting her way into the Terrordrome, where she just basically emits acid, which was one of the most brutal attacks she made in the movie, because if you remember, a Crimson Guardsman, of course it was a Crimson Guardsman, was the only one to actually be able to get the better of her and tackled her to the ground, and then she just grabbed his helmet and started to burn it with acid so that he had to take the helmet off and back off. That was awesome. But she also cut through numerous blast doors with her fingers because they emitted acid. And I like the drip that they have here so that we could put her up against something to make it look like she's cutting through, because her fingers are shortened to act like it's penetrating into whatever it is she's burning. My only issue is that the top finger is way too short. Like they should have bumped these back a little bit more and let this come out a little bit more so they all would have been uniform, because if you put it up to this and then this one is just sort of off on its own, it's really not going to look right. Now this one is like her smoking hand, which I think she did this to was it a Televiper or was it another Crimson Guardsman where like she was going at him and just like emitted gas, stun gas or sleep spores or something from her hands. I'm blanking on this one, but I think that's what the whole deal was. Like Pythona, one of the things that I loved about Pythona, especially in that infiltration of the Terrordrome, is that Pythona is a weapon. And you can argue that Nemesis Enforcer is a weapon as well. But like, he was brutal. He was just like the smash. She was the grab. Like, he had the spikes that came out of his elbows. Yeah, he could weaponize his armor. He had the wings. He was a warrior. But like, it just seemed like everything about Pythona was designed to kill. When she could even kill with just her touch, that's just savage, and it was awesome. So in addition to additional hands, Pythona also has a second head sculpt, which we saw already. Her top knot can pop off, and then we just pop the head off. You can see we have our dumbbell joint right there. And then we bring in our second head sculpt, pop that on, and then we can put, we can put her top knot on there, and there we go. We have her bearing her fangs in a very vicious, like, this is the complete opposite of this more serene look right here. This is her showing just how dangerous she is. And I love that you can see the fangs are actually separated from the rest of the mouthpiece. I think that is a fantastic sculpt and design to this fanged look. You can also see that there is green on the tips of her fangs, like she's secreting venom that she could either inject into you with a bite or spit at you. Like, she is a weapon, and it is awesome. Also, we do have an additional top knot that we can take this one off, and then we can put this one on. And I remember the hair got cut. I don't remember how it happened. The obvious answer is to say that it was Snake Eyes, but I don't think it was Snake Eyes. I can't remember who did this with the cut. Oh, Jinx. Jinx was probably the one, because she was in the movie as well. So I think Jinx was the one that cut that. But it's cool that we have that piece as well, and it does fit with the rest of it. Like, you can see just it's cut right at the bend, so it fits in, but it's also different enough that it's not just a resculpt of this and then cut off. Something else that I like, if you take a look at, yeah, that looks weird, I know, but you can see the strands in there. You can see it's all compressed, the hair. It's not just a clean cut. And I think that is really cool. So the first of her real accessories that we're going to take a look at is her cape. And first of all, this cape is masterfully done. I love this texturing on the black side of the cape that looks like reptile skin or scales, or more of like that bioorganic look. On the underside of the cape, we have a very smooth fabric, sort of like that satiny silk fabric with the royal purple underneath. It is not see-through, it is not translucent. You do not have that problem. I really dig that, because a lot of the cloth goods capes that we get from like Mattel or Hasbro are very thin material, and you can see light through them, you can see through them. This one you very much cannot. And I love that it has sort of like this webbing look down here at the bottom of the cape, which of course she had in the cartoon. I also like that it has this bizarre hood going on, which looks great. This was very signature. She had the hood up, hiding her identity while she was infiltrating the Terrordrome. And this is my first issue with this cape, because if we go back to the packaging, let me bring the box up here. Look at that, okay? That's an image. That's a picture. They say you can do that. They say this is what we got. I think this is a digital rendering, because let's take this and put it on Pythona. And to get the hood up, you do have to take the ponytail off, or her top knot off. As a matter of fact, when I took her out of the packaging, I think it was off to begin with. And it just slips down over her head, and you can pull the hood down and tuck the material under her chin, And there she can be having the cape on, hood down, and you would be able to put the top knot on for this. However, if you bring the hood up, there's really no easy way. There's really no way. First of all, this hole is cut. The hole in the hood is cut way too large. That's... The hood wants to come down pretty much all the way. So let's try something here. If we bring this up so that this is covering her nose, it's not going to stay up because the cape is coming up off of her body. And if we bring the hood down over her brow the way that it should be, this part, like, you can get a hooded look for her, but it's no different than any other hooded cape. The face is still going to be exposed. You can't get like that ninja look going on, which is really disappointing to me. Like, that was one of the coolest features that they were showing for Pythona, was that you could get that hooded look with her. And it's not like there's any material hidden inside the cape that you could like pop out. This was just cut and stitched incorrectly. This lower piece should have come up higher. This could stay where it was, to be honest. The top could stay where it was. But this part, you can see it's even so loose. This part, there needed to be more material here to come up over the nose to cover, like, say, right there. It's just not going to happen. And there's really no way to, like, take this and wrap it. So that is very disappointing. That is very frustrating. That is very upsetting. Like I said, it looks cool on her. It has that profile, but you can't get this up to cover the bottom part of her face so that she can like ninja her way through something like she did in the cartoon, and also how they showed you on the packaging. This is really... Something like this is really the best that you can do. Or you could just call it a day, pull it down, tuck it underneath, and then she just has her cape on, which the cloak is awesome. Don't get me wrong. I think the cloak is really awesome. The design of it, the cut of it, the texturing of it, it looks good on her. The black just makes that purple stand out even more. But I don't think we're going to be able to get that hidden look that she had from the movie. Now, the next thing we're going to take a look at is the chakrams. And as far as I know, like I said at the beginning of this video, as far as I know, these are new to her. Maybe they're just here for the classified figure. Maybe they're here as part of the Energon universe. I'm not sure, but they look pretty awesome. I like the handles, how it's this double-headed snake right here, and then this pink translucent plastic, like some sort of crystalline weapon, which totally would make sense for Cobra-La. I could totally see that being a thing, and she looks really good holding them too. I like the chakram. I think it is a highly underutilized weapon for action figures. I've been a fan of the chakram ever since the Xena days. I think this is really cool. Getting them in her hand, it's not a fight, but because of the bend of the handles, it can be a little tricky, and I think it's just giving me problems because I'm trying to do it behind camera. Give me 1 second. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Big fingers, small parts. It's not easy to do stuff like this. Not easy for me, anyway, to do stuff like this through the camera. But getting them in her hands is easy. Like I said, she has trigger hands, but she doesn't really have trigger weapons. But these chakram look awesome in her grip, and they fit her character as well. Because truthfully, the only thing she doesn't have as part of our standard weapon on her, with the exception of maybe spitting venom, is a ranged weapon. So this covers that as well. The only thing I wish she had was a place to hang these. Like maybe if she had some hanger hooks on her hips or something, and they would be covered up by the cloak whenever she was wearing them. But as it is right now, she really has no place to stash them. So she just has to carry them. But truthfully, she doesn't have a place to stash any of the kit that she comes with. And she comes with a lot, and we're about to take a look at all of that. So I had made the comment that she ninja'd her way into the Terrordrome, and I really wasn't joking about that. She is 100% like the Cobra-La infiltration specialist, and all of this right here are the tools of her trade, which first of all, let's start off with this multi-headed snake serpent thing, but I think this is supposed to be eels, because you can see they have the fin on there. They all come back to one tail. I think it's supposed to be a multi-headed, like, electric eel, because what she used this for in the show, in the movie, was she came up to the electric fence that was surrounding the Terrordrome, and she pulled these out, and these were her wire cutters. Like, they attacked the electric fence and basically bit their way through so that she could pass, and the electricity didn't affect them. So even when I was a kid, I was like, oh, that's some sort of mutant electric eel. I like that there's this curl to the tail, and then she can grip it here, and this can curl around, and then this can curl around her hand. Let me show you 1 second. Let me get the chakram off of her hand, and we can position this thing around. It's sort of like that robotic cobra that Baroness comes with. You see it wraps around her hand, and then she can grip it right here, or at any place, really. I just liked having her hold it there, because then you can do, like, the full extension with the chomping mouths right there, like a little electric hydra. So that was very cool. That was awesome when she pulled that out. Then the next thing we have to take a look at is this. And if you remember, this was sort of like her stun gun, that I think she used this on one of the numerous Crimson Guard that she took down, that she just held this out, and I think she had 2 of these actually, and she held them out, and the tongues lashed out, and they wrapped onto the Crimson Guardsmen and kind of like shocked them and took them down. Unfortunately, she doesn't really have an open hand that holds this piece rather very well. You would kind of have to set it in her hand. But then also she has this little bug that, once again, I think this was like a gas bug, if I'm remembering. I may be getting these two things mixed up, but I'm pretty sure like she threw these things as a gas grenade type deal, that like she squeezed them through and they went poof and like gassed the guard. All of this stuff is just fantastic. And then here is my favorite piece. This was basically a G.I. Joe face hugger. And look at the detail on the inside of this maw. That secondary mouth in the back, the teeth around here. Like, this is legit, no lie, terrifying. You can see it has the pink tail right here. These little tendrils are on ball joints, so they have some form of articulation, which is good, because what you can do with this, and let's bring a Night Creeper in, this will actually grab onto a classified figure's face and face hug them. Okay, so it's not it's not that sturdy, but like you can get this around them. It will grip on, it will hold on, and you saw what was on the inside of that. Imagine this dude seeing that flying at his face. And she had, I think there was a total of 3 of these that she pulled out and threw them, because I think the first time she used this was on that Crimson Guard I was telling you about, where she burned the helmet and then he had to take the helmet off, and then she hit him with one of these. I don't think these were like face huggers where they impregnated the victim. I'm not 100% certain about that. So we're just going to stand our Night Creeper there. Then this is actually an interesting piece. When she finally caught up to Serpentor, this clamshell was what she opened up to somehow project a hologram of the broadcast energy transmitter. Unfortunately, there is no broadcast energy transmitter on the inside. I think that would have been really cool if this would have been opened up a little bit more and there would have been like a blue translucent hologram in there of the BET. That would have been pretty cool. Now, speaking of the BET, that's what this guy is for. This is one of the pieces, the linchpin, the lynch piece, you might say, of the broadcast energy transmitter. This was used, I think, to power the whole thing. Because, of course, things were powered by crystals in this movie, or in this show. I mean, it was a basic G.I. Joe Sunbow movie plot. You had first the mass device, then you had the weather dominator, then you had the broadcast energy transmitter. Cobra has an idea to put a big doomsday weapon together. Cobra has to get the pieces, go on a series of fetch quests to get the pieces to put the doomsday weapon together. G.I. Joe gets some, Cobra gets the others. Cobra ends up with all of them. Cobra puts the device together. G.I. Joe saves the day. This is a piece of that. And this makes me wonder, especially considering we just had the Mass Device series with Breaker, the Divers, and Snake Eyes, if we're going to get other pieces of the BET to go along with this. Although I don't know what other pieces they would put out there. Okay, so the problem with her holding stuff like these accessories right here is that she has these trigger hands that, unless you really try to deform them, she's not going to be able to get like a good grip on any of these pieces. However, what I think she needs is another hand like this, but maybe without the smoke effect. Because if we take the grip hand off and we put the smoke hand on and we hold it out like so, you can see that this piece has like these spikes right here that you could use on the underside. And then if you turn her hand and then finagle them in there like so, they can slip between her fingers and she can get a grip on it. And you could argue that that's maybe like an effect of whatever this thing is that she's using. And also, we can take her bug bomb right here, because she has a very long thumb. Her fingers are long. And we can get her to hold it like that as well. Once again, arguing that maybe this is an effect from that. So we can use this hand to hold these items. I wish she had another open hand on the other one, because the only thing that she's having a problem holding is, well, maybe not even that. The holographic oyster, the holographic clam, that still looks a little weird for it though, but at least you can use those hands, or at least that open hand, to hold these pieces. Here she is beside Hasbro's G.I. Joe Classified Series, Jinx, and that night creeper that got face-hugged. And before we go on, one thing I do like about this cloak is that there is enough material that you can do poses like this. Just by turning it a little, you still get that like hood down effect, but also you can conceal this side of her, keep this side open. So there is a lot of material here to do interesting things with the posing, with the cloak. I just wish the hood worked correctly. And I'm curious to see if anybody comes up with like a third-party cloak for Pythona now that has the proper head wrap. Here she is beside Hasbro Marvel Legends Lilith and Dracula, and that's a lot of pale faces. I don't know how this is going to look once the editing is done. Here she is beside Valaverse Action Force Pandora and Bone Collector version 2. Here she is beside Hasbro Star Wars The Black Series, The Wicked Witch of Dathomir, and Knights of the Old Republic, Darth Revan. Here she is beside Jada Toys Universal Monsters, The Bride and Count Dracula. Here she is beside Mattel Toys Sectar's Warriors of Symbion, Stellara, and Dargon. And I have to admit, putting her next to these two, I'm very curious to see how Sectars would pair up with Cobra-La. Like, maybe not even necessarily General Spydrax alongside Cobra-La, but putting her on Spiderfly, that might be kind of awesome. Here she is beside NECA Toys Dungeons & Dragons, War Duke and Strongheart. And finally, here she is beside Airborne and me from the G.I. Joe Steel Corps. And now finally, here she is with the only comparison that may really matter, her and her fellow citizens of Cobra-La. And yes, for the Sunbow cartoon, I am including Serpentor in that as well. Remember, when Pythona revealed herself to Serpentor, he knew who she was. He saw visions of Nemesis. He saw visions of Globulus. He is Cobra-La as far as I'm concerned. I'm very curious to see if there is a similar origin to Serpentor when he finally comes up in the Energon universe. It'll be interesting to see that. But they've been doing a really good job with Cobra-La, with the Cobra-La figures, for those of us that have been able to get them. All of these being convention exclusives, I'll be the first to admit, is pretty ridiculous. The Royal Guard is coming out, and that's going to be a deluxe figure, and that's going to be available to the general public, and that's really great. But if you can't get these, what's the purpose of having the Royal Guard? Also, I'm really looking forward to Globulus. I'm curious to see if they're going to give him like that hover sphere that he had in the movie, and if that will be the end, or if they'll make a few more, because they could take it one step further with another Cobra Commander and give us like a pre-transformation version of Cobra Commander when he was still like, he said once a man. I don't think he was ever a man. Like, what that blue skin thing he wasn't a man. It was just a citizen of Cobra-La. So we could get one of those. That would be interesting as well. But Pythona here, she is fitting in perfectly with the rest of this faction, this team, this family. So let's discuss this first, that right now Pythona is behind a wait wall. I don't even want to say it's a paywall, it's a wait and see wall. That right now she is still in stock on HasbroPulse.com. However, she is only currently available to Pulse Premium members. That goes until November 3rd. After November 3rd, she will be open to the general public, and I feel fairly confident that there will be enough of her to go available to the general public come November 3rd. How long she'll last after November 3rd, I'm not 100% certain. Because I feel like if she made it past the first weekend of Pulse Premium members having access to her, heck, she made it past the second weekend of Pulse Premium members having access to her, and she's not sold out at this point, because she is in stock. It's not pre-orders. It's like, what did they call it? See it now, buy it now. I feel fairly confident that she'll be available come November 3rd for the open market. Like I said, how long that lasts, I'm not sure. I do have some minor nitpicks about her. First off is that cloak. I was very bummed out that the hood feature doesn't work the way that it was advertised, doesn't work the way that it should. It wouldn't have taken much to just make that lower piece, giving it a little bit more material so that it would come up over her nose, or heck, just made it that the hood itself came down all the way. When you brought the hood up, the hood came down all the way and covered her face entirely, so that just those eye slots were cut out and it was just one piece, rather than having it have that open face, face piece like a standard hood. That's a bummer. That's very discouraging, very frustrating. Also, instead of clenched fists, I would have preferred if she would have had another set of open hands that didn't have the gas effect, so that she had hands that could hold these accessories that she has, like the stun clam and the stink bug and the face hugger and the holographic clam and the jewel, the ruby, for the broadcast energy transmitter. Also, because of her having trigger hands instead of grip hands, the chakram are a little loose in her grip. It didn't seem like that the first time, but the more I started playing with her, the more I realized that it was a little bit of a loose hold on the chakrams. Like, she still has them and she's not going to drop them. They just don't fit in there as tight as I would like them. Now, having said all of that, Pythona is awesome. Maybe part of it is because I just watched her infiltration of the Terrordrome and saw how she just like cut her way through Cobra to get to Serpentor. That was very cool, but she does come with like a lot of bioweapons. That maw, a face hugger, the electric eel wire cutters, the bugs, the clams, the chakram, the cloak, everything. Like, she has a very striking look in addition to having a lot of weapons. She is Cobra-La's infiltration specialist. I don't doubt that that was like her intention, that they needed somebody to put against Jinx in the movie. That may be why they even created her. But she's an awesome figure. I wish the torso articulation was a little bit more fluid so that she could get down into some like really like battle poses, combat poses, things like that. But it's not anything that really ruins the figure for me. I'm more upset about the cloak than I am about the lack of torso articulation. Being the latest member of Cobra-La, I know how difficult some of the Cobra-La figures, especially like Nemesis, were to get your hands on. I always hope that everybody who wants this figure is able to get this figure. Especially considering we never got a Pythona. Like, if you were a G.I. Joe fan when we were kids, we never got a Pythona. And this time she came out and they just knocked it out of the park. This is like a great representation of that character. It is Bricktober, the spooky season is upon us, and it's one of my favorite times of the year. Thank you everyone for making it to the end of the episode. If you stuck around this long, there must be something that you like, so if you could please leave a like on the video. And while you're down there, you can leave a comment and talk about what we discussed today, or subscribe if you haven't already. If you already are a subscriber, what a legend you are. If you would like to help the channel out in other ways, you can become a channel member through my Ko-fi page or YouTube channel membership. Links to all of that and more in the show notes below. For $1 a month, you get access to Member Discord server, eventually members-only live streams, and members-exclusive videos. So until next time, my friends, play well, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, thank you for watching.